In another stunning turn of affairs in the sport of boxing, people were treated to an outstanding, entertaining boxing match on Saturday, October 28th, from Cancun, where the super featherweight title was on the line. The WBC sanctioned fight that saw champion O'Shaquie Foster taking on Eduardo "Rocky" Hernandez in a fight that these two men put on and now will be in the history books for a possible Fight of the Year candidate for 2023, and had produced readily, easily, Round of the Year in this stunning, stellar matchup. Let's talk about what went down between O'Shaquie Foster and Rocky. How many times have you heard me say that 2023 is an outstanding year of boxing thus far? The sport has delivered so many thrills. I'm really having to sift through the library of excitement for my of the year candidates. And we had one more, as we saw O'Shaquie Foster defend his WBC super featherweight title against Eduardo "Rocky" Hernandez. This fight was a stellar, outstanding matchup and contrast of styles between your classic boxer and your classic plodding puncher. These two men fought valiantly over 12 rounds, and there was ebb and flow. There was a total dictation of the action in the initial rounds that saw Rocky come out and really control the fight. The ring was relatively small thanks to the Zone and Matchroom setting this fight up. I believe they had things favoring Rocky heavily. But when you have a talent like O'Shaquie Foster, what happens is you can have all of that type of help, but when someone is as capable as he is as a fighter, it requires a great deal more to overcome. And that's exactly what happened after the first 4 to 5 rounds, when Foster's camp was telling him, "Hey man, you're losing these rounds." And he surprisingly answered, "I'm losing?" Yes. And his record now, 21-2 with 12 KOs, had to be defended. And he stepped up to the plate and took care of business. He started to make adjustments in the fight. Initially, he was sticking and moving, giving angles, and not digging and setting down on his punches. And those early rounds, Hernandez saw himself being having the edge because he was coming on in pursuit. And just as I knew, the judges were favoring him heavily, and Foster was going to have to change things up, which he did do in the third quarter of the fight. At one point, he looked to change from orthodox to southpaw, and that was simply to give Rocky a different look. But when he did that, his punches were landing more crisp and clean. Now Foster, who's 30 years old and has the height of 5'8.5" and a 72-inch reach, began to put some separation between he and Hernandez as those rounds went on. It was the kind of fight that saw him make good changes, and by round 7, that's when I saw the change. Hernandez, who's 25 years old, he's an orthodox fighter at 5'6.5" with a 68-inch reach, needed to get closer and on the inside to do any kind of damage against Foster, and he labored to do that. He really tried his best, but what happened is he wasn't used to going into the fight that late. So his record now of 34-2 with 31 KOs drops that second loss, but this was a good experience for Rocky because he's gonna have to learn how to pace himself and be mindful of his conditioning, because you could see he was depleted as rounds 9 and 10 came around. He just didn't have that snap. He was starting to take backward steps and look to just catch something, lightning in the bottle or Shocky, chin in the air, something. But it was not to be. Foster continued to box, and noticing that Rocky was fatiguing, he began to turn things up a little more. And that's where we began to see that change in the fight. I thought it was pretty cool, the fact that Foster was able to make those adjustments. But what I also noticed is he has a pretty sturdy chin. Hernandez is the type of puncher that has gotten a lot of guys out of there, and the resiliency of Foster put him in a position to be successful, along with his confidence. He would not be denied on this night, and as he began to go after the fading Rocky Hernandez, he was able to put him to the canvas. When I talked about these men leaving something for the record books, it was the 11th round that made things stand out. The 11th round saw Foster put Hernandez to the canvas. He was worn. Battery low, energy low, check engine light on. And Foster moved in like a marksman. It was the type of situation that quality fighters, the guys who are on top of their game, can always look to when they're in there battling. And he was able to do this at a time of need. In other words, he was not going to win a decision in this fight. He needed to step it up and get a knockout. And come the 12th round, that's exactly what happened. He put Rocky to the canvas, and Rocky could no longer hold things up. It was the type of fight that had the fans rocking and rolling. The entire stadium in Culiacan were on their feet. These men had brought the people out of their seats with their performance. And even though Hernandez was stopped, he needs not hang his head. He fought valiantly. But it was Ice Water, the nickname of O'Shaquie Foster, that saw him come through. He lived up to the nickname. He was able to put Rocky on defense. And it was every bit as exciting as one of the films of Rocky. I really enjoyed this fight. I was really inspired by the performances of these men. Oftentimes, fighters are heavily criticized, but this was not a night of criticism. This was a night of enjoyment, to see what these guys were doing and to see how they pit their wares against one another. O'Shaquie Foster has arrived. He's a true champion. And sometimes it requires you go through something to find out where you truly are. And right now, he's on top of his game at the super featherweight division as the WBC champion. I want to say salute to O'Shaquie Foster for his performance, and can't wait to see him again in there. What do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you thought about this fight between Shock, Ice Water, and Rocky. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.